Om Agnir Murta Chakshusi Chandra Suryo Vishaha Shrutrivak Vibritasha Vedaha Vayu Prana Hridaya Vishvamashva Padbayam Pratibhihi Sarvabhutan Taratmam Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Verily, that one Supreme Being is the indwelling consciousness in all beings and all things. Fire is its head, the sun and moon its two eyes. The revelation of Scripture is its cosmic mind. The universe is its heart. Its arms and legs the four directions. Wind is its breath, music is its voice, and from its feet the earth has originated. Om peace, peace, peace. Om na tatra suryabhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kuto yamagnihi tvameva bhattamanubhati sarvam tasya basa sarvamidam vibhati. Om shanti shanti shanti. There, in the inmost self of all living beings, the sun shines not, nor the moon, nor stars, nor fire, nor lightning, much less this tiny mortal frame. That one light shining, all else shines. By its light, all is lighted. May that indivisible light of pure conscious awareness enter into us and permeate us to the very core of our being. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu, Ma Vidveshavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. This morning we have been washed clean by the heavy seasonal rains on the Big Island, which we've been waiting for a long time, there having been a drought. And in the same way, we can use that as a metaphor, what a hot and arid drought it has been for the human mind when it's away from the rain of grace. Short of the rain of grace, which is a very rare thing, there's the rain of Dharma, called Dharma Mega Samadhi, or that rain cloud of virtues, sometimes it's called, both in Buddhism and Vedanta. And we want to make sure that we're nurtured, the land of our awareness is nurtured all the time by this constant rain of Dharma, the teachings. That's how we keep ourselves bolstered up in this world. We have to develop some sort of taste for them first. At first they could be overwhelming, they could be seemingly contrary to what we're used to in science and evolution and conventional religion. But as you develop a taste for them, all of a sudden they ring of truth, and that bell that you haven't heard for a long time inside of yourself begins to chime, And life gets in step with that, and all of a sudden you feel in that Advaitic mood. I'm in an Advaitic mood today. And we definitely are, because we are studying the second series of this great set of classes called Shakta Advaita Vada. I even brought a chart that's formulated for that very reason, with that topic in mind, that we will look at. But we are coming off of some 4 or 5 or 6 classes, I forget, they go on and on. One of my students here says 6 classes we've had. She's been there for every one of them, and it's one of her favorite subjects, this non-duality as espoused and transmitted by the Divine Mother of the Universe, Shakta Advaita. And Vada simply means path. So those beings who find themselves in love with Divine Mother reality, that is not in place of the Almighty Father, as Almighty Father tends to be, if you understand it right, beyond gender of course, non-dual and inactive, and beyond thought, beyond matter. But the Shakti power, is that wriggling power in the snake, or the wetness in the water, or the whiteness in milk that animates all beings. It animates even inanimate objects. That is, the rock has its rockness because of Shakti, and the tree has its treeness, and silver has its silverness, and humanity has its humanness because of that Shakti power. That's something very rare and special that you put aside from Maya. Maya being name and form in time and space, based on cause and effect, karma. Desha, Kala, Nimitta, Nama, and Rupa. I mean, that's kind of an overall definition Swami Vivekananda gave us for Maya. We came here and we all know how stultifying that is, how hypnotizing it is, how enchanting it is. And not all for the bad either. There's some very good enchantments going on in this realm, some very good dreams that people are dreaming. However, when the dreamer awakes from all dreams, then realizes the mother herself, not just her enchanting powers. See, Ramakrishna used to say that if you go to Calcutta, and it's famous for its many gardens, then you only have one day in Calcutta, and you want to see the very best garden. So what do? Take a tourist map and go looking? Waste too much time. You're casting about, hoping to get lucky. So there's one owner of all the gardens. So you go to that owner and say, which is your most splendid, perfect garden? I want to see that. And he then gives you that privileged information, and you go there and you enjoy it. So Shakti is like that, just that one best of all things in creation, in relativity, in the realms of name and form. She presides over the realms of name and form. She is Mother Wisdom, Paravak. She is Samvit, the highest vid, or wisdom or knowledge. And so beings who fall in love with Divine Mother reality then sometimes come up against a quandary, but what about Advaita? What about non-duality? What about the Almighty Father? What about my fealty to that? And my strong leaning towards and yearning for non-dual experience, which is in all of us, which is why we go into deep sleep every night, because that's non-dual, at least temporarily. All of form has been put in abeyance, like all of the forms that you see have been tucked away in a chest of drawers. That's called deep sleep, or if you want to put it philosophically, unmanifested prakriti. Prakriti means nature. So there's this manifested prakriti with the 5 elements and objects, but there's this unmanifested prakriti from which all of the manifested prakriti came from, via these trickle-down processes of mind, intellect and mind and ego, and down to the subtle elements and subtle senses, to the gross elements and gross senses, right on down here to solid earth. And that marching out process is called manifestation, or sometimes they call it evolution, but the lover of Divine Mother reality begins to find new names for it, like divine projection. Projection, the mind is like a projector projecting all these things, and it withdraws them back in meditation, and it draws them back in deep sleep, one consciously and one unconsciously. Or it finds beautiful names for it, like divine sport, lila, See, it's mother's sport, so I shouldn't become too attached to it and too serious about it, because it's all passing and changing. That needn't be a negative teaching, that everything is ephemeral and transitory. That needn't be a negative teaching. That might be a sobering teaching for a person at a certain level of their spiritual awakening. But pretty soon it becomes a very freeing thought that all of this is just a play. I needn't take it so seriously. I just need to take seriously that one thing by which all else is known. And that one thing can come to you in the form of two, because it's very rare to get the one thing Almighty Father style. We call it Brahman or Allah or Buddha nature. But it's a little bit less rare to get Divine Mother, that is, awareness of the Mother Power or Shakti, and to see her as different from Maya. She's Maha Maya. She's the great Maya. Maya is name and form and time and space with all these objects that people are getting embroiled in. See? But Mahamaya is the one that allows for that to manifest. And this is what her four arms are all about. We're waiting and to spring that on everyone. You see, we've taken this chart. There is spiritual transformation in the goddess. This is the name of it. And that's been our main chart for 6 classes. On Series 1, Shakta Advaita Vada. This is Series 2, Shakta Advaita Vada. So we're going to do another 5 or 6 classes, 4, 5, or 6. And we're going to look into everything that we didn't look into when that we didn't cover in the first 6 classes. Pretty much we did an umbrella of her. We looked at Brahman, we looked at Om and Hrim. Those are the 2 great bijams, or seed mantras, if you remember. In the beginning was the Word is with God, the Word was God. So we looked at the great utterances that are just seed syllables, which being uttered by very powerful beings, deities, can manifest themselves into worlds and objects. Everything is in a word, and it comes out of a word and goes back into a word. And that's where all this unmanifested Prakriti has gone too. When you go into deep sleep tonight, it all gets tucked back into the word. Who am I there? Where have I gone? What has happened to me, my ego me, and what has happened to my mind? And it all went into absolute abeyance. I wasn't even dreaming. So it's a very tender and non-dual state, sort of a semi-non-dual state that you go into in deep sleep. But you will find or be able to see, if you're conscious, Om and Hrim and Shrim and Klim and Krim and Hum, all the different various seeds, as it were. You see, it's just like if you were looking at a bunch of seeds for a forest of trees, different kinds of trees. You see this collection of power bijams, out of which everything will spring. A seed has to be nurtured with water and split open, and the sprout come. In the same way, Om and Hrim, those kinds of seeds also have to be split open by the conscious force in you or in a great soul. And that tree, that sprout has to grow in a tree, and it will grow into a series of lokas or a series of akashas, space in time. All based in that word. So it gets tucked back in. So we looked at all of that in almost the first class of Shakta Advaita Vada Series 1. We also looked at Nirvikalpa and Savikalpa samadhis on either side of the board, next to the pillars. See, Nirvikalpa meaning free of time, free of space. The space, time, and form have all been made extinct, like nirvana, blown out, like a candle. All form has gone away. But on the opposite side, a perch for that bird who flies so high. See, a bird has to fly high all the time, but it has to come to rest on a branch. So Savikalpa Samadhi for the illumined soul would be that branch of a tree which it can come down to, where it would not have to descend all the way back into the vagaries and vicissitudes and trials and trammels and tribulations of Maya. See, it does not have to go down that far. It does not have to come down all the chakras and come back to its base chakra, eating, drinking, and sex life. It can come down to Savikalpa Samadhi, which is a wisdom samadhi, which is a deeper wisdom samadhi, which is a bliss samadhi, and which is a ripe eye, a ripe ego samadhi. Those are the 4 kinds of Savikalpa samadhis, seeded samadhis. So there's a connection to seeds again. So we looked at the nirvikalpa state of mind had by thousands and thousands of saints, even many of them on record for having had this experience in different religious traditions. And we looked at the savikalpa side of it too, the seated side. That is with time and space and imaginings, and without time and space and imaginings. Basically, nirvikalpa, extinct of all kinds of projections and time, projections in time, and savikalpa, replete with them, only of a higher nature, in wisdom. See? So there's your play, there's your sport. See? There's the shakti, there's the wriggling power of the snake, there's the wetness in the water. Most people will rest there. But it still is a very high station to reach if you contrast it to or compare it to ignorance, avidya, root ignorance, or asmita, egotism, or attachment and aversion to things, or clinging to one body in one lifetime, abhinivesha. Those are the 5 kleshas in yoga, the 5 impediments called. So there are intermediate stages of abidance for the soul. It doesn't have to come back to the world, the world of mundane human convention, where people are talking zeros all the time. How's the weather? I can tell you it's raining very hard. You can even hear it. So weather is one thing, but how about that temperature, that climate, that's an internal climate? How's that weather? How's the weather inside? See? Well, it reminds me of the joke my teacher used to tell. A bunch of monks were walking in the mountains and they ran into another monk. And they said, "How's your vision?" And the monk said, "Well, I can still read the phone book with glasses on." And then they passed by. And when the monks had gone by, they started laughing amongst each other. Because when they said, "How's their vision?" they're not worrying about how his physical eyes are. They're wondering about his inner climate. How's your inner vision doing? Have you reached samadhi yet? See? So people tend to think of terms of mundane human convention. See? They think you're asking questions on a very base level of everyday ordinary talk. But you may be thinking and operating on a much more refined level, and definitely those beings who you go searching for when you want to know the Dharma are operating at an entirely different level. You'll find that out about them very quickly. How they're not really interested in spending time talking about ordinary matters. Their mind is in one place and one place only. And it's either there because it's arrived at that one place, or it's very keen on getting to that one place. So all of that has to do with the difference between ignorance and savikalpa samadhi and nirvikalpa samadhi. This is a quick review. Now we looked at moksha and kaivalya. Moksha is a liberation that's always at hand, to quote Shankara. It's not something that you can get through practice, although you must practice in order to purify the mind so that it can realize it. It's not something you can get over time, like a post-mortem emancipation kind of idea. It's not something you can get through transformation, because Brahman does not transform. Brahman is one perfect, indivisible, timeless, deathless, homogeneous mass of pure conscious awareness. There, I've exhausted all the good words in English for it. I used to think there's about 5 or 6 good English words you see for Brahman. Can use those. And I said, well, I'll just put all 6 of them together. So words like homogeneous, see, if you say indivisible, even it says, well, it was once divided. See. So whatever, it's unspeakable, but this is the idea with moksha. It can't be attained through these usual methods that you're thinking about, or by purifying, or by giving up sin, or bettering yourself. Those are all things you should do, but that one superlative thing will only come to you unasked, as it were, when you're prepared and the right auspicious moment is there and her grace descends upon you. There's a few very special ingredients in the quotient that have to come together. like that clock in Calcutta that Sri Ramakrishna talked about. Many, many, many gears and a clear frame. So you can see all the gears working. So that's Maya, you see. But he said, those people who know about the clock, they say one day out of every 365 days, the gears line up so you can see through the clock. So you want to be there on that one day. That's auspicious timing. You want to be there. You want your consciousness to be there when it is time for her to grant you samadhi. If your mind is wandering around in Maya and she's there ready to give you that one superlative experience, where did he go? Oh, he's in Calcutta looking at the clock. No. You have to be there. So your consciousness has to be poised and ready. Rabindranath Tagore had a song about Lord knocking at the door, you see. I stayed awake all night waiting for him to knock the door. Then I just took a 10-minute nap. That's when he knocked. Really. So when we say vigil, we mean being on vigil all the time. See? So day to day, you keep your mind in a state of teachings, in a state of meditation, reflective, contemplative, peaceful, content, non-agitated. Whatever takes you away from that sattvic balance, you have to remove as quickly as possible. You may be missing a great opportunity by allowing such Maya to seep into the cracks of your thinking consciousness. And it's going to be the same at night when you sleep. You have to fall asleep with the mantra, see, with these seed bijams in your mind, you see. Then wake up with them. See, don't let your mind get off the point, get off track for even a moment. That's a practice you have to engage in to keep yourself one-pointed. If thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. What else do you think he meant by that? That all of a sudden some big hole's going to open up in your forehead? See? It means one-pointed mind, one-pointed concentration. That's symbolic there. And it's a symbology so powerful that it's in 7 different religions, I found it. References to the third eye, the Jnana Chakshu, the white dove descending, the eye of Dharma, and so forth. It's mentioned. So it's not so symbolic that it's a myth, but it's not physical. See, the Kundalini doesn't rise up a physical spine; it rises up in a subtle body in you. So you are inhabiting the physical temporarily. You must only associate with it in consciousness, but you should never identify with it in ignorance. So, moksha, a state already at hand. In other words, when Advaita Vedanta says, thou art perfect, thou art that, they mean that literally. You don't have to take that symbology, but you do have to realize it. Because there are many things standing in the way of such a profound realization, as you might have found in your own practice. Living up or measuring up to that perfection. Vivekananda said, many people, the tendency is just to pull Brahman, divine reality, down to their comfort zones, you see, down to earth, down to Maya. But a few very singular souls, they raise themselves up to that. That's what is wanted, you see, to raise the bar and to practice jumping it every time you raise it. You can't just say, oh, that's the highest ideal, and then not practice jumping. So, moksha, a very profound subject. Then we went across the board to the top of this pillar, koivaya. Koivaya means a penultimate state of moksha. That's why it's across the board on the salvikalpa side as compared to the nirvikalpa side with moksha or mukti. Koivaya means at some point I will need to separate myself from all form, from all name, from all time, from all space, and from all my karmas. Those will have to go in this superlative moment called enlightenment or realization, self-realization. And that will be meaning getting a divorce from nature. See, you'll have to go to the Trinity, which is here, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. We'll maybe look at that today if we get the time. And you'll have to say to them, it's a wonderful projection from the cosmic mind I'm seeing. Congratulations, it's so beautiful, and you're at the most sattvic level of it. But I want to go beyond it. I've been in the bath long enough. I'm getting wrinkled. I'm clean. I want to get out. That is, the bath of name and form I've seen it, I've done it, I've been there, done that, as they say. So now I want to see what the formless reality is all about. When the Divine Mother was born, Shakti herself, the Shakti of the Shakta Advaita Vada path, was born to King Himalaya, the king of the great snow mountains. Then she was announced. The Lord said, Uma, Parvati, Divine Mother, will be born to you and your family. You will have the Divine Mother as your child. This is just as precious, even maybe more precious, than having Rama or Krishna, Gopal, as your child, you see. The parents who had those great souls. Now the Divine Mother is coming in her form, you see, the baby Uma. So King Himalaya, as soon as baby Uma could speak words, said, can you give me visions? He was an opportunist, spiritually speaking. Can you give me visions? I'd like to see Hanuman right away. She gave him that vision. I'd like to see Ram. She gave him that vision. I'd like to see all the gods and goddesses. She gave him visions, whatever he wanted. Then he finally said, now I want to see the indivisible Brahman. She went, Father, not so fast. See, you have to spend a lot of time with the illumined souls to get the vision of the Almighty Brahman. So it puts it in a whole different category, very, very rare. See? So a Kaivalya will be that thing which will have to happen to you consciously by your own admission before you will be able to step over that boundary, that line of demarcation between matter and spirit, between humanity and God, between creature and creator, and beyond. That line of demarcation will have to be erased by you consciously. Not necessarily permanently. It can come dancing back, you see, when you take form again. But you have to know how to give it up and take it on, consciously. How to attach and detach at will. That doesn't just mean objects, the teaching in yoga, to attach and detach at will. If you're attached, you must learn detachment. Once you learn detachment, then there are some 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 steps of detachment, from low to middling to intense. Adimatra. So then after that, you learn that you can actually associate with things and give it up. Of your own will. There's no danger of getting stuck anymore. And so at that point, you've learned a great secret about spiritual life. And you've mastered a great attainment. So that doesn't apply just to objects and land and wealth. It applies also to giving up form at a very high level of your spiritual practice. You're going to have to detach from that last vestige of form. Even your guru or your ishtam, you see. You get to the Father through the sun, we were talking about this morning in live streaming satsang, while the rain poured down. And I got practice at projecting my voice. So, I shouldn't have said that, here it comes again. So, that's the import of the teaching of Kaivalya. Beautiful name rolls off the tongue. Everyone say it. Kaivalya. Kaivalya, yeah. Beautiful word in Sanskrit. We also looked at Ashtaka and Nashtaka, the 3 kinds of Maya Shaktis, Avarana, Vikshepa, and Prakasha. Didn't we? Mm-hmm. And we looked at somewhat at Nirguna and Saguna, but I want to show you a little bit more about that in a particular chart, so you'll become aware of this difference between absence of gunas and presence of gunas. It's sort of like absence of form and presence of form, but it's more toward the qualities of beings and of nature. There are certain qualities that when they're absent, that's nirguna, and when they're present, that's saguna. So God appears both with qualities and without qualities, and you should know that. And when you do, then you can differentiate between the non-dual samadhis and the seated samadhis, or the one non-dual samadhi, I should say, and the seated samadhis, which are multiple. So, Ashtaka and Nashtaka, back to that, we looked at that on the last series of class, didn't we? The last 1 or 2 classes, we looked at Avarana Shakti, the covering power. We looked at Prakasha Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti, the distorting power. And we looked at Prakasha Shakti, the revelatory power. 3 kinds of Maya Shaktis there in the world of name and form. And if you get very adept at wielding them, at seeing them, at perceiving them, then you can see what is dark and to be avoided. You can see what is misleading and distorting, and then you can see what opens up the door everywhere for you. Basically, tamas, rajas, and sattva. You can see those things that are slothful in mind, in nature, and in time, and you can see those things that are frenetic and misleading. That would be the vikshepa shakti that distorts, and then you can see all of those things that are open doorways to higher teachings, to higher modes of living, to better relationships, including your relationship with Ishvara, which we talked about this morning in satsang. One question was, how do we better our relationship with Ishvara? So those three gunas, or those three Maya Shaktis, that's pretty much our teaching on guna in this chart right now. Because gunas are, I have at least 3 or 4 other charts we could pull out to look at in terms of the gunas. We've seen them before. Now, Ashtaka and Nashtaka, or Nashtaka, if you remember, are the how many orthodox systems in India? 6. 6 orthodox systems. You are sitting in the presence of one very powerful one right now, Vedanta. We teach mainly the Vedanta from Swami Vivekananda. But there's also yoga and Samkhya and so forth. So, and of the that's Ashtaka. What did I say in Ashtaka? I meant Ashtaka. The 6 Ashtaka systems. And Nashtaka means non-orthodox. So non-orthodox means Buddhism, Jainism, to mention a few. They don't necessarily base their proofs of truth on the Vedas. Buddha, for instance, came up with the 4 Noble Truths, and that's pretty much the foundation upon which Buddhism proceeded through all these many centuries into China and on to Japan as Zen and so forth. A long-lived and ripe and rich longevity in Buddhism based on Nastika. So it doesn't have to be using the Vedas as its only source or its main source. Doesn't mean they also won't refer to the Vedas, because Lord Buddha knew the Vedas inside out. In fact, Lord Buddha took 2 Sankhya teachers before he went into the woods and practiced asceticism. After he left the palace, he took 2 Sankhya teachers. In these Hollywood movies about Buddha, one would wish they would get a little bit more akamai and into the teachings, what really happened, the more important things of Buddha's life, not just what person he met or what kind of things he wore in the forest or what he ate, but that he took 2 Samkhya teachers would have been very beautiful. Could have been 2 movies in themselves inside of other movies. Mm-hmm. You can see how he learned the Samkhya system from the ground up, and how Buddhism was therefore, as well as Shaivism, as well as Vedanta, as well as Tantra, was all influenced by Sankhya, 24 cosmic principles of Sankhya. Lord Kapila's system, the man who did his homework. So those kinds of things are very important of note, not just of note, to actually look into. So Ashtaka and Nastika, the 2 great pillars, the orthodox systems of India and the non-orthodox systems of India, one of the things that this could tell us is that there's not just one holy book in India and not just one incarnation, one son of God, if you want to put it that way. There are dozens and hundreds of each. That's India for you. And so this opens us up to a much wider perspective, religiously, philosophically, and spiritually speaking. See, all of a sudden, we see how many possibilities there are in the soul. We know how many possibilities are out here in nature. Have you thought of how many possibilities there are there, hidden back inside of your soul? How many avenues you can find, avenues of light? You want to be light? You want to know how to remain light and get rid of the darkness? Then tread on a light-filled path. See, there are many of them in India. So that's why they call her the mother of religions. That's why this chart. See, important to show you. This is an 8 by 11 before it was expanded, so you can see how much fun I had and how much trouble it was to try and put the tip of the iceberg of teachings here. The most important teachings that I could think of here across her august form, her visage, to show you everything that's in her Shakta Advaita Vada path. Now, other things that we can look at here are coming up. I think today I want to show you a little bit more about Nirguna and Saguna Brahman with one or two charts, but before that, and to sort of formally open this series 2 of Shakta Advaita Vada, let's look at Shakta Advaita Vada itself. The first quote from the Tantras is a good one. Somebody already asked me about it. Non-duality is the essence of mother wisdom, Maha Matrika, the supreme mother. Matrika is an interesting word. It's matra means a particle. So particles of mother wisdom and everything, you might say. It also means the mother of all, Maha, the great mother of all beings. So non-duality is her essence. So we're starting out knowing her at the highest level before we go down into the wriggling motion of the snake, you see. We have to know her as beyond both snake and wriggling motion, see, the very essence of the thing. Through her word as scripture emanates to reveal the mystery of the universe. Oh, guess what? Agama and Nigama are mentioned there. See, so it's sort of like Ashtaka, Nashtaka, or these Nirguna and Saguna. There we have another version, Agama and Nigama. That is, these different scriptures, the revealed scriptures and the secondary scriptures, and even the Itihasa, the scriptural history in India, is very important in helping to reveal her. And to reveal the mystery of the universe. What is the mystery of the universe in a nutshell? That it's a projection. It's not a creation. That it's pictures dancing on a screen, but the screen's never affected. And where is the projector? Your own mind. Your own mind at individual, collective, and cosmic levels is a very powerful thing. So, beyond science, psychology, see. Beyond psychology, yoga psychology. Beyond yoga psychology, the science of self-realization. Put it nicely in a sort of a tiered way of looking at it. So we want to keep our eyes on the prize. If we said humorously the other week, if a child's on a merry-go-round, going round and round a lot, then pretty soon he might lose his lunch. See if he stays on that. Maya is like a merry-go-round, but do you ever notice there's a little ring there that you can reach for on a merry-go-round at the circus? If you catch the ring, you might get some prize. Hopefully it's not another ride. So keeping your eyes on the prize, that ring is keeping your eyes on what's outside of the merry-go-round. I can get off this, and when I do, I'll feel very stable, I'll feel very healthy, I'll feel very free. I won't be going around in circles anymore. See? So we keep our eyes on that highest prize, or gatam, gatam, paragatam, as Buddha said. Goals, there are many, but the supreme goal, there's only one of those. Seek thee first, right? Seek thee first. All else will be added. So we're starting out, my point, we're starting out at a very high level when we say non-duality is the essence of mother wisdom, Shakta Advaita, which through her word as scripture emanates to reveal the mystery of the universe. God with form, Ishvara, living beings, worlds, and objects all evolve from her. And that's where we would segue to a chart on the 4 arms, Icha, Kriya, Drauvya, and Jnana. But we won't do that yet. Mm-hmm. We'll be going through too many charts and never finishing one. Mm-hmm. Now, this chart is good to put up, and I'm doing it in the middle of the series, of these 2 series, so that we can sort of reorient ourselves to a new series of classes on these climbs that you might say fall into the realm of lower Maya. They're starting to descend into the realm of name and form. Up here, there was a lot about formlessness. So now we're beginning to find things like prana, you see right there at her navel, and her grace for beings who do descend into this kind of level, and how to do practice to keep yourself free when you descend into this kind of level of things, because Maya is there, the worlds, lokas, are there, and manifested Prakriti is there, and the five senses and the five sense object the kinds of sense objects are also there. You're getting into a place of solidified thought. Here in the middle, thought was still fluid, see, like in your dream state. Up here, it was like deep sleep state. It was formless, and there was no thought of getting free there. You always are free there, you see. But as you came down the spectrum, which is sort of like life is a many-colored dome that stains the pure white light of reality. I'm paraphrasing Shelley, the poet Shelley. Life is a many-colored dome that stains the pure white light of reality. So beyond this many-colored dome of many-colored glasses, I do choose to say, is the sun that's shining through. But that light hits these many-colored glasses and it turns into prisms. Well, that's the idea here. The light of non-dual awareness shines and hits this Trinity, you see Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, subtle forms, causal forms, subtle forms, gross forms begin to manifest. And time and space kick in. And when time and space kick in, you begin to think. The soul begins to think like, this is real. No, this is not real. This is just slowed down. Everything is slowing down so much that it seems to be taking time. It's densifying, see. And as it densifies, you need to intensify. You need to do your sadhana. And remember that these worlds that are appearing are not creations at all, they're projections. That time is slowing down around you to make it look like everything is real. But if you go into deep sleep tonight, where's the world? Where's your children? Where's your ego? Where'd they go? Presto changeo. See? Sim salabim. See, it's all gone. And then go to Prakasha Shakti and say, Om Sesame. See? Open sesame. You want it all revealed again to you. So don't fall into the auspice of time and space being real. These are in your mind. And the mind is using them, and the mind can confuse the mind. But it will not confuse itself. It remains in knowledge of the absolute non-dual reality, truth, Satyam. Somebody asked that question this morning at satsang. Why do the Hindus value Satyam the highest? Why not? Find anything else besides non-dual truth that's better in this world? It's even usually put above non-violence. If you can be non-violent, then you won't create any karma with people, with things, with nature. But Satyam is not in the realm of violence and non-violence. See? There's no two-ness to Satyam. It's non-dual truth we're talking about. So this is the single eye of wisdom. You shall know the truth through that level of thinking, or better said, maybe non-thinking. So all these things evolve from her is why I'm going off in this connected tangent. You see, all of these things evolve from her as a projection. And we only think that as the projection gets denser and denser, the vibration gets denser and denser. We only think that that's a reality, but that's the price we pay for getting into form. If you're outside of form, time doesn't exist, like in deep sleep. Dream, time is even made malleable and stretched in infinite ways in dream, isn't it? You don't know where one dream leaves off and where the next begins. That's sort of, actually the dream state is echoing your waking state, because most people don't know where their experience lets off and their next experience begins in the waking state. They don't connect them. People who say, oh, I live in the moment, are like that, you see. The kind of pseudo-New Age philosophy. You see, oh, I live in the moment. See, that means I'm just having experiences, one after the other. I don't know where one ends and the next begins, and I'm not extracting any essence out of them. To do that, I would have to stop having experiences and distill. You see, I can't just be caught in them. I can't distill on the run. I have to stop and say, that experience was this, and it related to me in that way, and there's the essence of it, but I completely overlooked while I was having it. So when you're having the experiences, then You're not able to extract the essence, you see. So the one moment proposition is what Advaita is putting forth to you. There is no time passing. There's just one moment and everything's rising in it and falling in it. It's a beautiful yogic and Vedantic teaching. And it's very hard to wrap your mind around it first, because time has slowed down so much here and space has become so physical and so stretched out that we buy into it, and that is Maya. The mind in Maya. See? But just consider that you can give all that back to the Trinity from which it came. You can hand it all back to Lord Brahma. Very nice, thank you, I'm done with it. I'm going to have an experience of myself now, not my ego. I'm going to have an experience of truth as the only element instead of the 5 elements on earth, or the 24 cosmic elements throughout the worlds of name and form. I'm going to return to my single position, my stable position as Shiva, with Shakti as my guide. Shiva and Shakti, the divine couple. If you have any of that kind of thought in your mind, then you're already a tantricist. You're a tantrika. You're practicing, and I think most householders in the West are more probably practicing the tantra than they are the Vedanta. The Vedanta comes along and saves you with the sword, though. We'll get into that later. You see, the difference between... well, actually, we're getting into it soon, because it happens right here. So you can see how Advaita Vedanta and Tantra are in this path of Shakta Advaita Vada. Let's get to that. So here's the intention of the Shakta Advaita Vada path. Primary directive, what is her directive? Is to manifest the soul's inherent perfection. This is the Advaita part of it. Vivekananda was very, very big on that. You cannot get spirituality from books and temples. You have to get it from another soul. You must not leave wisdom in books and scriptures. You must bring them out and manifest them. I mean, these are paraphrases I'm using, maybe almost exact quotes of the Swami Vivekananda and how he would express it to you. Shruti, hear it, or Shravana, hear it. Manana, roll it over in your mind. Manana. Nidijasana, have direct spiritual experience. Is that the end? No, sakshatkara. You must bring it full circle and put it into your life. We always talk about the 3s, Shravana, Manana, Nidijasana, but sakshatkara is hardly ever mentioned. That's what Vivekananda wanted. That's what he dug out of the Vedanta, buried deep. Because the rest of this is sadhana, you see. And in sadhana, you tend to forget the mother of sadhana. It's just like having experiences, right? You're having them in the world and you're not extracting any essence out of them. Or you can also have spiritual experiences and not extract any essence out of them. See? It's so easy to forget. If you think it's easy to forget about God by having pleasure with objects, well then how much easier is it to forget about Mother by having spiritual pleasure? Sattva, you see. Isn't it? Aren't those even more distracting than just the mere everyday objects? Because you're probably not going to get tired of sattvic bliss very quick, but you'll get tired of the things of the world fairly swiftly. They'll become, pallid to you. So, manifest the soul's inherent perfection. That's called siddhi. Not siddhi as powers. We're not talking about the Astabala siddhis. Those you must get thee behind me. Krishna said, and Ramakrishna said, the 2 bookends, you see, of Advaita Vedanta in the world, as far as time is concerned. So, and not siddhi as something that grows in nature that you smoke. Not that kind of siddhi. There's many meanings for this word, you see. But this means perfection. You want to manifest your inherent perfection. You see what it's saying there is that you cannot grow your perfection. You cannot smoke your perfection. You cannot manifest your perfection through these lesser powers, Astabala siddhis. That's all ego stuff. This inherent perfection is your true nature. It's unchanging. We've said it how many times? So all you need to do is manifest it. And those beings whom you consider so marvelous are doing the manifesting, and right in front of your very eyes. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of saints and seers in different religious traditions manifesting their inherent perfection in terms of scriptures and service of God and mankind and high meditative states and samadhis and on, you see. Spiritual life on the move. And most of the percentage of humanity oblivious to it, thinking that the world is the only thing that's going on. So, go ask the Prakasha Shakti to help you. Reveal that whole substratum that I can't see. You see. Give me the collyrium for my eyes. In that beautiful story in Greek and Roman mythology, there's a collyrium. You put it on your eyes, all of a sudden you can see perfectly. Well, this is the spiritual collyrium. Ask her to give you that so you can become aware of all the saints and seers and sages of all the different religious traditions and all their divine works, which is the only reason they would come to this horrible old waddled. My teacher used to call it the old waddled, with this Indian accents. That's old world, by the way. So, this is the initiative. This is the primary directive. The secondary is to free the soul from cycles of rebirth. Notice the order of the Shakta Advaita Vada path. First, realize the perfection of the soul, then free yourself from cycles of rebirth. Pretty wise order, isn't it? Seek thee first, again. So, Siddhi, then Karma Bandha. As Vivekananda said when he formed the motto for the Ramakrishna order, Atmano Moksharta Jagaditaya Cha. That's the little motto you see in the beautiful insignia that he had formulated with the circle there and the Om sign and the swan and the sunset and the waves, which mean karma, and the ocean in back. Beautiful motto for the Ramakrishna order. You should study that. One of my students made me one of them out of colored glass. Recreated it out of colored glass so you could hang it in the window. You see. So, Atmano Moksharta, moksha. See. Realize yourself. Then, Jagaditaya Cha. And then, Cha, and free souls. Free the world. Jagad. So first, realize the soul, then free the world. If you get into the world without realizing the self, then you make a bunch of errors. And the blind starts leading the blind. It all regresses, you see. So, ideally, that is it. So first directive, manifest your inherent divinity. Second directive, free yourself from the cycles of rebirth. Then the result is going to be the awakening of Kundalini, Shakti. The awakening of Kundalini to reveal the Atman in pure mind. So Kundalini is a class that I will give soon on Sunday, where I will bring 3 or 4 charts, and we'll look deeply into the Kundalini system. Sri Ramakrishna has told us in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, there will be no spiritual progress without the awakening of Kundalini Shakti. So it doesn't matter what you're calling it. If you're calling it Parasamvit in the Vedanta, if you're calling it Chit Shakti in yoga, or you're calling it Pragya in Advaita, whatever you're calling it, it's the Kundalini yoga you're talking about. And it must be awakened for any kind of spiritual progress to be made. Certainly you can do a little preparatory qualification, study of scriptures, meditations, and so forth, but when to really awaken her, that's the beginning of spiritual life. See, then she gives you Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and that seems to be the beginning of spiritual life. You see, there's no beginning, middle, and end to anything. Non-origination, we studied that in the last series, before this series, remember? Called Non-Touch Yoga. Those have just been finally, most all of them rendered for YouTube, so you can look back on them. I finished the last one last night, in fact. And my wonderful student Mahesh is rendering them to the YouTubes with beginnings and endings, music from Jama Music and credits and all that, to make them into little mini movies. You see, hour and a half, hour long movies of darshana, of dharma. So those will be stored up there. So that's the first part of this chart, the intention of the Shakta Advaita Vada path, or you put it more personally, her intention for you is that you manifest the divinity in your soul, free yourself from cycles of birth and death. The result will be, Mother will be in you, and you'll realize it. See, Mother is in everything. There was a story once, didn't we say that? You see, all living beings, worlds, objects, even Ishvara come out of her. So one of Sri Ramakrishna's devotees went to England, you see, when the English were occupying India, and he saw the Queen. And came back, see, and Sri Ramakrishna said, well, what do you think of the English and the country there? Because he hardly ever went out of the country, you see. I don't think he ever went out of the country. Hardly went out of his province very many times. So he said to the man, what do you think of the English? And the man had sort of, because the English were occupying India and had really no business being there as dominators, had a kind of a, negative atmosphere in his mind about the English. You say, oh, they're just busy building machines of war. Their harbors are rocking with shipbuilders and iron and shipments of munitions, and they're just making ready for war and so forth. And so after the description, Sri Ramakrishna said, well, it sounds like they're worshipping Shakti to me. There are different levels of Shakti, you see, as we said, different levels of Maya. But that's industriousness, you see. So this Shakti power is in everything, is the point here. But you want to see her in a spiritual way. So you want to see her at her essence. Let's go on to the next section of this chart. Now, its origin and its nature, either side of this image of Mother. See, in its origin, these are called the two truths of supreme knowledge. Para-vid. Para-vid is the word. Not aparavid. Aparavid is mathematics, science, those kinds of things. Paravid is the knowledge of the self, the supreme, probably from the revealed scriptures on up. So you're talking about Paravid. Some of the seers restrict Paravid to just Samadhi itself, just the pure experience, no scriptures or anything else in it. Even the scriptures would fall into a Paravid to them. But others are more generous. They say Paravid, the opening of the door of a Paravid then gives rise to Paravid through the revealed scriptures, not through the ordinary scriptures, but through the revealed scriptures. So you're beginning to have higher and higher realizations of these bijams and these truths that are the sayings of the scriptures, as we just read in the quote. So another word for that is pratibha, and I brought that chart before. Pratibha, flint-like intelligence. It's what strikes sparks in you. It's your insights. See, if this intelligence is brought to the fore, then anything you experience will automatically have meaning to it. If that pratibha is left deep in the river, it can't strike sparks. So Sri Ramakrishna used to describe Naren, the young Swami Vivekananda, that way. Oh, he's a flint. You can keep a flint in the river for 1,000 years, but if you take it out when it's still wet and strike it on a rock, it'll strike sparks. So Vivekananda's soul is that full of pratibha, flint-like awareness. Even amidst the wetness of Maya, in the body for 32 years, Maya could not find him, karma could not find him, death could not find him. He was the living Paravid, the living wisdom. He was the walking Upanishad. He used to say, I have no caste. I'm a sannyasin. I stand at the head of the Vedas. The Vedas are in me. The walking Upanishad. The Vedas going to somehow create themselves of their own accord. They're in sentient wood and paper, scrolls. See? They needed a seer to come up with that wisdom, a seer with experience to put them into the scroll. He did that with Pratibha. So that flint-like intelligence, let's see how its origin and its nature. Its origin is self-revelatory. That is, it's not sense-born. One question I didn't get to this morning was, how do we know consciousness isn't just of the brain and dies with the brain? Well, here's an answer for you. Self-revelatory, that's why. And as I was just saying, there's an inception relatively to everything. Ultimately, there's no inception to it. But even in origins, the Word is the inception of everything else. She's the mother of the Word. See? So you trace the Word back, you prove it to yourself, stage by stage. And as you drop off the senses, the objects, then you live in the senses. And you drop off the senses, then you live in your subtle senses. You drop off those 5 subtle senses, and you start living in the mind. You drop off the mind, you start living in your intelligence. You see, everything you drop off that dies in your wake still leaves the self there. And it's as it gets stripped of all these overlays, these tattvas, these 24 cosmic principles, it shines more and more. It took on these coverings. Some unconsciously, some consciously. Some out of ignorance, some out of wisdom, in order to help others. But as it sloughs them off like a snake its skin, the scriptures say, then it shines more and more in its own self-revelatory light. They have a word for it. Swayambhu. Self-revelatory light. The Svarupa, the essence. Svayam Jyoti, the light that shines by its own power. Like a sun shines by its own light, while a moon has to borrow light. See? Look up at the moon and say, "Oh, moon, you have such a wonderful light shining there." And the moon says, "Oh, alas, I don't have my own light. I have to borrow from him, the sun god. I always have to borrow from him. And every so often I have to turn my back on him and half of me turns dark, you see. I don't have my own light. I'm not Swayambhu like the sun." So, self-revelatory, not sense-born. Consciousness cannot be born of the senses. Consciousness just inhabits the senses. And in fact, it invests them. Didn't we say she animates everything? So, if she can animate a rock, then she can animate the senses. Ask yourself in meditation tomorrow morning or tonight before bed, what is the power of the eye to see? What is the power of the ear to hear? What is the power of the tongue to taste? What is the power of the nose to smell? What is the power of the hands to feel? See? We know what the eyes, ears, throat, nose, and hands are, but we don't know what animates them. And don't make the mistake of saying God animates them. See, because God has nothing to do with form. Not in my tradition. You must go to, man does not live by bread alone. You must go to prana. Prana animates everything. Then you say, who animates the prana? Who makes the prana flow? Because when I die, my prana stops, you see. When my arm atrophies, the prana is not flowing through it anymore. So prana is not the ultimate reality because it goes through changes. And I'm looking for the changeless reality. I won't take any wood and nickels. My breath stops and I still live. See, I breathe 224,000 times a day, and at night that cuts in half. And sometimes at night I don't breathe for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm actually underwater, as it were, holding my breath. All of a sudden, the aqualung sound. You see, and people start breathing again. They come back out of deep sleep into dream. And they start breathing again. So what is it that animates the breath and what takes it away? What is it that causes the soul to inhabit the city of the body-mind mechanism at nighttime? It's the prana. Now, who controls the prana? Who is the Mahaprakriti, the mother of all life force, you see. So this is getting towards the idea of self-revelatory, something that has its own power, something that has its own light. It's not borrowing from anything. Brahmadvitiye. It's one without a second. It doesn't depend on other things. And this is the secret of spiritual life, which science and secular communities and ordinary beings will never know. Not until they engender a little bit of yearning to know her, to know the self within. So there's those words we already said about her. She's Parasamvit. Para means supreme, samvit means wisdom, higher wisdom. Parasamvit. She's Chit Shakti. That's the father of yoga's word for her. Father of yoga hardly mentioned God in the sutras. Both Samkhya and Yoga, two of the Astika darshanas, don't necessarily mention God. The father of yoga's idea is that if you just take to this eight-limb system, you'll find God. But we're not going to give you any name for it, see, or any teachings on it. Just take the teachings of the Dharma, and you yourself will come to know what God is for you. You might see God as formless, you may see God with form, you may see God as mother. There's all sorts of opportunities there and possibilities, and you will find that, but you just start into the teachings, you see. Try and engender some faith, at least in the teachings, because they ring of truth. Satyam. So he called her Chit Shakti. Chit means thought, basically. But if you put Chid, it means the thought that leans towards higher awareness. Chidananda. It is the bliss of the highest awareness. So Chit Shakti, she's the mother of higher awareness. The father of yoga mentions her once, I think, in the Yoga Sutras, in all four padas. Several times. And then pragya. Pragya means supreme intelligence. Now let's look across the board to the nature of supreme knowledge. We look at its origin. In other words, it has none. And you'll find that's true of everything. When you look into origins, it's very elucidating, very enlightening. But the end result of looking into origins is, oh, I see, it has none. There is no beginning to anything. How can there be when everything is? Does what is have a beginning? Does isness go away? The very word smacks of a constancy, you see. So, it's that, if you want to be more precise about it. So its nature, knowledge is what? It's divine dynamism. You won't find knowledge and wisdom in Brahman. See, it's gone. Ignorance went first via knowledge. You took the thorn of ignorance out of your flesh with the thorn of knowledge. And both thorns came off the same bush called wisdom. Now you throw both away, you see, and you're free. That's truth. So ignorance goes first, with knowledge. Knowledge goes and turns into wisdom, divine dynamism, and then that ushers you into the presence of non-dual truth, where ignorance, knowledge, and wisdom don't exist anymore. Knower and known and that which is to be known, the act of knowing, are all gone. You left behind all dualities, all triputis, all quintuplications, like the five senses and the five elements. You left them behind. Twos, threes, and fives all went away so you could know one. Or the not two, as they say. So divine dynamism is seen as female in India, the divine mother of the universe. All beings turn to her. Even Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva turn to her when they have a conundrum, a cosmic conundrum in their case. Like Shiva drinking the poison. I'll try and show you that new chart after the break. See, had to drink the poison of relativity. Hala hala, it's called. You look for the definition of hala hala in Sanskrit, can't find it. Some sort of colloquial from some province somewhere, some tantric ancient tantric principle, but it sounds Hawaiian, doesn't it? Hala hala. So tomorrow I'll look on the computer and someone will have that as their website address, halahala.com. But be careful, it's a kind of poison that only Shiva could digest, and it would have killed him if Shakti hadn't pressed his throat and kept it there, and so his throat turned blue. So when you see icons of Shiva, he's got a blue throat, that's called Nilkanta, blue-throated one, because he swallowed the poison of the universe in order to save it from disintegrating. So he took on that great sacrifice. So she's the divine dynamism in everything. That they often say, does that mean she's less than Brahman? No, she's self-willed. Nobody knows what she is. Even she doesn't even know the extent of what she is. She's an unfigurable element in the quotient, Divine Mother. So its nature is also Guru Tattva. It's what the Guru teaches. See, that is the very principles of truth that the Guru relates to the Shishya, which means the disciple or the student or the aspirant. That she is. She's manifesting through the words and the personage of the illumined souls. It's also Trikalatita. Atita means beyond, transcendent of. So Trikala, 3 phases of time. Didn't we just say time, space get into the quotient and everything slows down and everyone begins to take things as real? Vedanta says it's all unreal, and reverses the process. So your mind has gotten into that conundrum and Vedanta is releasing it back into its true nature. Part of that is Trikala, past, present, and future. And didn't I just say that if you're having experience after experience, and that's all you're doing, you can't get any essence out of it? That's called the present. I live in the present. Oh, that's too bad for you, I say. People say that to me. I live in the present. I say, well, I live in the eternal moment. Come and join me. See, present is one of the 3 phases of time: past, present, and future. And I have charts I brought on karma, past, present, and future karma, that we can look at either this week or next week. See, because that's in the mix here, karma. So past, present, and future karma is very interesting to look into so that you can neutralize it and be free. Even in the body you can be free. Remember that? Jivan Mukta. You see, the person who has moksha is a Jivan Mukta, is living liberated, free, like I found my teacher. So, Trikalatita, to be beyond the 3 phases of time. It's rather subtle to meet a person like that who's living beyond the 3 phases of time. Because you can't really tell by looking at the person. Yet they are living in the eternal moment. See, when they went to see Holy Mother, probably because she was the wife of the famous Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who all of a sudden got famous after he passed from the body. While he was in the body, wasn't that well known. He was doing his work then. He was shaking Maya to its foundations for 12 years in his sadhana. But after he passed, people found out about him, basically from the gospel that M put together. And all of a sudden people were finding out that his wife outlived him. Oh, then we should go see her. And they came to her and she said, well, why have you come to see me? Have I grown 2 horns? You know what she meant by that. Is there something different about me outside? Or has it all happened inside? You're coming to see a show? See a sensation? A woman with a bull's head? A circus act? Or are you coming to me because of this transformation that's taken place inside of me under the Master's auspice? She was his first student, his wife. He married her when she was 5 and he was 23. So they never consummated anything on the level of normal relationships. It was all Shiva and Shakti coming together. And then she went to him when she was 18 and, oh, you've come, he said. Have you come to drag me into the world? She said, no, why should I do that? I've come to help you in your work. So Shiva and Shakti are equal. See, they're one. Like fire in its heat, water in its wetness, milk in its whiteness. That's how Ramakrishna described it later. Shiva and Shakti, or Brahman and Shakti. You can use either one you want. So some beautiful things about Trikalatita. See, I don't live in the present. And you should make sure that you don't live in the past and the future. That is, brood on the past and hope for the future. All worlds, both here and there, do I renounce. All heavens, all hells, all hopes and fears. So Holy Mother is becoming the grand ideal from this. They say about Sri Ramakrishna, he left 2 or 3 very strong spiritual landmarks. One was the universality of all religions, and the other was the motherhood of God. That's why we sing to her so often, you see. We have beautiful songs that we like to sing to her. There are many of them, just like there are many that have come out for Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in a very short time. Mata Shama Sundari Ramachandra Pituge Jagadamba Bhavatarini Utirile Navade Agahana Krishna Saptami Dina Punita Gururvar Hua Sharada Kaparama Karunamaya Avatar Karunamaya Avatar. What is Karunamaya? Full of compassion. She's the avatar as mother that's full of compassion. Jaya Rama Bhakti Punya Gati Sahaja Sukriti Sahodara Shiramano Bhavana Bhumi Bhavama Shama Shandara Urvara Mangala Vidatri Shanti Gatri Loka Shoka Timirahara Avatara Mata Divya Datri Vimala Buddhiri Tambara Jaya Rama Bhati Punya Gati Sahaja Sukriti Mahodara Shiramano Bhavana Bhumi Bhavana Shasha Shamala Urvara. Written by one Hindu man still living in Hindi. Dozens and dozens of those have been put out since people became aware of her in the late 1800s. Into the 1900s she lived. She outlived Ramakrishna by many decades. And he left her behind as the mother, the example of motherhood of God. My teacher's teacher was her disciple. I am her disciple. And why I like to present to you some facets of her infinite wisdom, and show you who she truly is. Because when she appears as form, it's very easy to see her with 2 horns. See? Only. But you must see her as Shakta Advaita herself. Sri Ramakrishna said, oh, she's like a village cat that rolls in ashes to conceal its true color. Well, there's some cats, probably tabbies or calicos or something, some yellow cat, you see, that others pick on because of its color. So it rolls in ashes to conceal itself. You are the divine mother of Vivekananda, of saints and seers like Swami Brahmananda, wife of the avatar, but wonder of wonders, you're also that simple village woman who was born in Jairambati. One beautiful song, you see. So the beauty of Sri Sharda Devi, we'll say some more about her in the second half. So let's finish this chart before we break. We were talking about Trikalatita, right? That is its nature. The three phases of time. And finally then, nirmama. Nirmama means without ego. So the implication here is that make sure that the knowledge that you glean comes from a source that's egoless and enters you in an egoless state. See, you should never say, it's my knowledge. Also, it's Mother's knowledge, and she is granting it to me. And then I can turn around and share it with others. Our founder is Lex Hickson of the SRV associations. His teacher was Swami Nikhilananda, also a devotee of Holy Mother, who was sent here to the West, New York, to teach Vedanta as one of the second generation of Swamis. Very profound Swamis. So one day, they came to Nikhilananda as a young monk and said, "You're going to the West to teach. Vivekananda, you're going to follow up Vivekananda's work." And he said, "I can't teach. Who am I? I can't teach anything." And, well, let's rephrase that then. You're going there to share what you know. And he liked that. So he was able to come and be sort of a lion of Vedanta in New York. He could hobnob with everyone, with not only just with the devotees, but with people of the city and society. He could reach them. And so you can read many of his beautiful books and translations in the libraries of Vedanta centers, including ours. And you'll find very lucid presentations of scriptures in this man, Swami Nikhilananda. So, nirmama, that's the point. Nirmama means like nirvikalpa, nirguna. You see, it's here on the chart. Pretty much means made extinct, or made to go away, made to get thee behind me, see, of no merit or of no meaning anymore. And so in that way, nirmama means free of egotism, free of any kind of sense of I, me, and mine. That's how Ramakrishna would put it. He said, you should turn I, me, and mine into thou, thee, and thine. And that was one of the few English mantras he knew. He used to say that. Oh, I only know a couple English words. So that was freedom from I, me, and mine, basically was the idea. He could say that in English. Now, to finish up in the remaining 5 minutes or so that we have, there is what we're looking for in this chart as far as our understanding of Shakta Advaita Vada ongoing. Advaita Vedanta is the Advaita part of that word, and Tantra is pretty much the Shakta part of that word. When you look at the Ashtaka and Nashtaka darshanas, they're called paths of clear seeing, then where does Tantra fit in that? See, it's not listed in either the Ashtaka or the Nashtaka. My point about it is that Tantra is so old and so vast that nobody ever systematized it. We were lucky Patanjali came along a few hundred years after Christ probably and systematized the yoga into 8 limbs. So that was a very fortuitous event for people who later could follow the 8-limbed yoga, climb each limb step by step, including the first 10 branches of the first 2 limbs, the yamas and niyamas. Very, very, very wonderful system of practice. But Tantra, nobody ever could systematize it. It was so vast. There's so much in the Tantras and the Agamas. And so we have to leave it, we trace it back to the Indus River, the Hindus, right? The Indus River where they lived along there as a matriarchy and a patriarchy combined. There were probably many phases to that very early cradle of civilization type of thinking. But the Tantricists were always into deification. See? So let's see the difference between Advaita Vedanta and Tantra and how they can be melded into one philosophy. Now, I'm showing this chart not because I'm proposing that Shakta Advaita Vada be accepted by you. It's not my doing. You see, it is one of the many 37 or 40 different paths that I found listed in the scriptures of India. I have a chart on that. We've never gone through it, but there's some. I think I started out finding 35, then 37, then 40, then 42. A long list of Vadas. See, and Shakta Advaita Vada is right there as one of them. So this is nothing new. This is something very ancient. And when we say ancient in India, we mean eternal, of course. But so this isn't something I'm proposing. This is something I'm teaching, sharing. You see. So basically, when you look at across the board between Advaita Vedanta and Tantra, how do you bring these two apparently diverse darshanas together? That's the secret of Mother. See, she makes pairs of opposites, she brings them together and makes them work when nobody else can. One of her names is Durga. And we have Durga on our altar, the 10-armed goddess, and I've written a book called The 10 Articles of Sri Durga to explain their significance. Small book, easy to read. And Durga, if you look into the meaning of it, is hard to know. Dur. It comes from that Sanskrit root, difficult. So Durga is very difficult to know. And her workings, as you can see, are vast. It'd be very hard to know what she's doing at any given time, especially when time is stretched out so long and so slow. See? Where are you, O Mother? Where are you, Mother? I'm beyond time, my child. Come up beyond time. You're trying to find me in form. You're trying to find me in time. It won't work. You'll wait forever for me. I hardly ever come into form. Then, as Holy Mother, when she finally does, you think she has two horns. See? You're looking at the sensation. You're not in Prakasha Shakti, in the revelation that says, my God, this is Divine Mother in human form. And my teacher was her student. See? So all of a sudden, she is coming into time, as it were. She is feigning a visitation to time. She's not identifying with time, but she's associating with it, for your sake. So there you see, on one side, Advaita says, all is Brahman, right? Tantra would say, Shiva Shakti. You have to see the two who are one. So when they say snaking in its wriggling motion or fire in its heat, they're talking about something that appears as two but is ever one. It appears as two but is ever one, and it breaks into the many. That was our first motto we ever created in S.R. Vedam 20 years ago. It said, ever one, appearing as two, manifesting as the many. That was our early motto in SRV. Because we were into both Shakta and Advaita, and we knew it. And we were trying to figure it out. And we were trying to figure out, we weren't questioning why we belonged to it. That was a matter of the heart, the faith. We were trying to find out a way to introduce it to Western civilization. That's why my teacher would start almost every one of his lectures on the podium, I am speaking to the Western people. That's how he would start, as if to orient himself, you see. Not just to let them know that it was obvious, but he was saying, now I came to meditate on that, now I am speaking to the Western people. Because probably when the Western people were not in his gaze, he was thinking of India, he was thinking of Mother, he was thinking of the seers, he was thinking of his teachers. Those weren't Western people. So now he's on the podium. Where am I, Mother? Yeah. I'm speaking to the Western people. And then he would tell us how to quit practicing the Bhoga Marga and start practicing the Jnana Marga. Bhoga Marga means the path of enjoyment. Jnana Marga means the path of wisdom. Just give up the Bhoga Marga as an end aim. See? It's fine along the way. It won't bother you if you're not attached to it. But focus on the Jnana Marga. Bring this Dharma, this wisdom, and particularly this non-dual wisdom to the fore, because it's in you. Haven't we said that? See, she's there. Doesn't she manifest all living beings? Didn't you come right out of her intelligence? Aren't you one of her thoughts? Imagine walking around like that, knowing I am one of Mother's thoughts, one of her great thoughts. Maybe I can be greater. See? Maybe she'll think me greater. Vivekananda used to say, when people come up to him and say, oh, you're such a great teacher. And he said, oh, Mother can make teachers out of straw if she wants. That's all Mother's doing. So that's across the board. Advaita Vedanta says all is Brahman, and Tantra says really the same thing, but all is Shiva and Shakti. One, ever one, appearing as two. Then Advaita Vedanta says Viveka. In other words, the basis was here, but now the method is what? The method on the Advaita Vedanta side is Viveka. The method on Tantra side is Tattva Vichara. That is, inquiry into the nature of the tattvas. And as you inquire into the nature of tattvas, you deify them. Tantra is all about deification. And Advaita is all about all is Brahman already, I don't need to deify it. So one's a step-by-step process that proves every little thing to you. And the other is a sword cutting right there. Cuts the head right off. Before it can even think. Before it can engage in any kind of sankalpa whatsoever. Now what's the body-mind purification? For Tantra, it's tattvagyan and upasana. That is, wisdom of principles has to mean something. It's not just deifying them for Advaita, but they're showing their meaning by their appearance. The fact that they've manifested has a meaning, and you must find that meaning. And then you must upasana, meditate on that meaning. So that's Advaita Vedanta's method, if there could be any method in Advaita Vedanta. And on the Tantra side, Bhuta Shuddhi and Chit Shuddhi. Bhuta means beings, objects. You must purify all these things in your life. That's that deification process. And purify your mind. See, all these things have come out of your mind. If your mind is impure, these things will be impure. If your mind is pure, these things will be pure. It's that simple. So if you're not seeing that yet, if you're not perceiving it, if you're not understanding it, if you're not accepting it, if you're not acknowledging it, then you must do this purification process by deifying everything. Now, we have reached the end of the first half of our class. I knew this chart, in its richness, would take the whole longer half of our first class of the second series of Shakta Advaita Vada. So here we will pause for 15 minutes. We will show this chart close up for the live streaming audience, which we have already welcomed here in our midst. So now let us take our 15-minute break and return for some more teachings in this wonderful and superlative path. Namaste. You have returned to the SRV Association's Hawaii chapter of teachings today that we are involved in the Shakta Advaita Vada path. We also have a chapter in San Francisco and one in Portland, Oregon, where we quite often visit 4 times a year, and we also live stream from there. And before we start back into teachings specific to the Shakta Advaita path, the path of non-duality in Divine Mother Wisdom, I was reminded to make an announcement about next Sunday. We're on retreat, so there will be no class here except for the classes of the retreat, and they will not be live streamed. So next Sunday, make a note of that on your calendar if you're used to tuning into our Sunday satsangs and our Sunday class. However, the 2-day retreat here is going to be taped, and that will be available on YouTube later. But better to get the teachings directly from the source. So if you can attend the retreat, please look into that by writing our SRV website an email, and if you want to attend, there'll be 2 full days of teachings on the mantra and its significance and its practice. And as I say, that will be taped and be available in the future as a resource. Now, with that brief announcement, let's continue on and finish this chart on Shakta Advaita Vada, because we had gone through it probably before, but this time we've gone through it very slowly and very deliberately in the setting that it deserves, in its own setting, that is. Now there at the bottom you see Purnahanta and that word aham. Ahamkara is ego. So the aham part of that word is I. So the true I is what Tantra and Vedanta speak about. And there you see it's broken up into 3 matras. Remember, she's Mahamatrika. She's the Divine Mother of all wisdom, and she's the mother of all intelligent particles, all tattvas that the Tantra and Vedanta, as we've looked at, are studying, both in terms of tattva gyan and tattva vichara on either side of the board. So this chart, at least in its lower portion here, is about the fusing of Advaita Vedanta with Tantra and how that works. Now, to end up with a result of that fusing, we come to this word aham. Aham. Sort of like dividing om, the word om, into a, u, and m. You can also do the same with aham. And there you see what it means. Very beautiful meaning to that inside of Mother Wisdom. The A is paraprakasha, they say. Akasha is space. And you know, in Vedanta and Tantra and Yoga and so forth, in Indian philosophy, there are at least five different levels of space, not just the physical space, bhutakasha, but the next space is the space of prana, life force, and then the space of mind, space of intellect, and the space of spirit, as it were, or consciousness, a spaceless space. So these are 5 akashas. And I would say where the atomic particle gets so small, becomes so minute and vibrates at a billionth of a second, that should give you a doorway into the next akasha. And that's what we're overlooking. The space where our ancestors went and where they come from as our great-grandfather passes and our baby comes back into the womb, into the fetus. That's coming through the prana. And so there's another space that's not physical, that doesn't take up dimension. Sort of like your dream tonight. You're dreaming spacious skies, but where are they? They're all in a concept, aren't they? So there's where space can be huge without even having a physical dimension itself. So like that, you have to think about diminishing down, see? Not dumbing down, as you would do if you went into studying the atomic particle and found it to be vibrating at a billionth of a second with nowhere to go after that. But to go into the next space, a space called pranakasha, Akasha, and find out that that's part of the doorways to the kingdoms of heaven that Christ was talking about, or when he said, my Father's mansion has many chambers. He's talking about these akashas that begin to graduate and gradate back inside of oneself, back inside of one's own consciousness. It's all coming out of one's consciousness, which is mother in a grand way. You say, I already said everything evolves from her, right? So in that way is what we're talking about. If you want to talk about it specifically in terms of particles, that would be a great way to understand it. And also a way where theology and science could actually come together, not so much at loggerheads, but to begin to understand each other, each in their own periphery. Physics would then open to metaphysics, and metaphysics would open to spirit, the things of a spiritual nature. So Parapakasha is the supreme space of pure being. That's Mother's own space. Sometimes they call that in the Tantras Mani Dvipa, her jewel island of essence. Those of you who live here on the Big Island in beautiful Hawaii probably can identify with that. See? Jewel isle of essence, like this beautiful blue gem shining, in a green ocean kind of ideas. Or a green gem shining in the blue ocean, maybe, depending on what clouds are there. Today it's a kind of a gray gem shining in a gray ocean. So Mani Dvipa is a reference to her own land, her own realm, her own loka, where Mother presides. See? So that's the A of Aham, the great I, Aham. See? Not the ego I and so forth, but this I am I. Now Aha means Svatantriya, a beautiful tantric word, Vedantic word too actually, which means inherent freedom. In that space of supreme being, all is inherent freedom. It's not a matter of bondage then freedom, or falling out of freedom and having to return to it. It's inherent freedom. That space is free and open and boundless and exhilarating. That's why it's blissful, Ananda. So you have to think in terms of that. In fact, that would be good ways to fuel your meditation, thinking of boundlessness, inherent freedom, vastness, light, as we were talking about this morning, pure light where no darkness. That's why if you meditate on the sun, then a sun knows no darkness. Darkness may be way out there somewhere, but around the sun there is no darkness. So you meditate on yourself as the sun, or on Ishvara as the sun god. And that's really the principle behind Suryism, or Saurism they call it, Saurism. The worship of Surya, or the sun, is very big in India still, and it has been big in other countries in the past. So it's not the orb in the sky you're actually worshipping, which is a physical bhutakasha, physical space manifestation, but it's what that light represents inwardly. So from a candle you'd step up to a lamp, and from a lamp you'd step onto a fire, and from a fire into a bonfire, and from a bonfire into a sun, and a sun into billions of suns. Where will you go after that? Like that sun they recently discovered that takes 11 centuries to fly around in a jet. 11 centuries to fly around a sun in a jet at that speed? That's a huge mass of fire you've got there. So all of those suns in space have come, where do you go with it? Back inside of your own consciousness, which is shining with a light, which is where there are no suns, no moons, no lightning, no fires, not tatra surya bhati, not chandra tarakam, nema vidyuta bhanti, kuto yamagni. Not even Agni is there, fire. I chanted that at the beginning of this class. A beautiful mantra out of the Upanishads. So that's where you go with that great light. So when you meditate this morning, or tonight, or tomorrow morning, then you meditate on this. You take this ocean of sorrowless light. It's one of the 7 ways the Father of Yoga has you meditating on your true self. Meditate on a sorrowless ocean of light, he says. Or meditate on a lambana, like a sun. That's one of the other 7. That's 2 of the 7 right there. So that's the aham of Shakta Advaita Vada. First, it's the supreme space of pure being, and it's inherently free. What about the M? That's the point of first emanation. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, is that M. You see, that's the Bindu, they call it. Bindu is that third eye, you see. And if you split the Bindu, then out of that, you'll have Ardhamatra, they call it, half moon. And the yogis can slide in through that aperture once it's split. See? So it's a very profound spiritual significance, and it's also got significance in the realm of our practice and our sadhana of Kundalini Shakti, which we will be getting to not next week, because that's retreat time, but the week after we'll start looking into some of those other aspects of this beautiful chart on transformation. Now, this leaves us just with the last quote, because I hope you understand Aham, the great I, and how that is the perfect blending of Vedanta and Tantra, from the space of supreme being, Parakasha, to the inherent freedom of a thing, Svatantriya, to the point of first emanation out of which everything comes and returns. That's Shakti's business, you see. Now, she is called Parameshvara, Paravak in the Agamas, Shabda Brahman, the path of sound in the Vedas. There is nothing beyond her, but there are infinite numbers of worlds within her. She is the inner essence of Shiva, not an extant consort. So she is supremely independent and self-willed. She doesn't depend on anyone or anything, not even Shiva. Though she adores and worships him, you see. That's her inactive side, and she has her dynamic side. So she's multifaceted like that. And that quote is by our own founder, Lexiksen. Find that in Great Swan, one of his books. So the beautiful there, she is Parameshvara, Paravak, Shabda Brahman. She's called different things in different of the scriptures of Ashtaka and Nashtaka. They each have a different name for her. As we said, she's called Chit Shakti and Yoga, and so forth. So wherever the seers go, they see her, and whatever period of time they're in, they'll coin a name for her. The way they understand her best, or the way they want you to understand her, because she's always in hiding, like a village cat that rolls in ashes, you see. So you want to bring her out of hiding. That's why Swami Abhedananda often did that with some of his beautiful songs. Snehena badnasi manos madhyam doshan sheshan saguni karosi ahetuna no dayase sadoshan svanke grihitva yaridam vichitram. Through tie of love divine, bound thou hast this heart of mine, granting forever thy presence benign. O wonder how thy mercy has showered upon us, changed to virtue our endless folly. Is how this Indian Swami wrote that in Sanskrit and translated it into English. Snehena badnasi manos madhyam doshana sheshan. Sheshan was the name of my teacher, Sheshananda. So this great Swami Abhedananda, one of the 16 direct apostles of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, came here to the West and helped Vivekananda establish centers, the New York centers particularly. So those are some of the beautiful sentiments that just, as I say, are listed in there's many, many songs and stotrams and chants and slokas and bhajans that are written by these knowers of Mother Reality. So with that sentiment, that beautiful musical sentiment, we close this chart for now. As I say, the first time we've really gone through it rather fine-tooth comb style, and giving us a better idea of this path that we're studying over the last couple months, Shakta Advaita Vada, and which we will continue to do for the next 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, sans next Sunday because of the retreat again. Now, if we go back to our root chart here, which is sort of our guide chart, we'll see so many other directions in which we could go, but I wanted to, before we actually fall into these strata of name and form, that where the problems start emerging, also some very beautiful things in nature, right? The 5 elements and their permutations and oceans and forests and so forth. Very beautiful things here, but all underlying that main problem of transformation. See, that's called here aparinama, or it's actually called parinama, but one of her great teachings is aparinama. Transformation is apparent only. Nothing transforms. You cannot take a thing away from its true nature. It always is its true nature. And the true nature of a thing is formless. So when you bring it out of formlessness into form, you have changed it apparently. And that's what's happened here. It's all come out of a formless chest of drawers, see, called the Great Mind, where everything was formless. And then it's appeared as form. So it's gone through an apparent transformation, hasn't it? So that's what's dancing in front of you. Phenomena. Empty phenomena. Ultimately empty phenomena. Looking back on all the aspects of this chart on how to look at that apparently empty phenomena, you see how Tantra does it by deifying it, and how Advaita does it by transcending it, by not getting attached or associating with it much, or barely associating with it, and never identifying with it. See? So, before we leave these pillars, then I wanted to show you Nirguna and Saguna Brahman. In this chart that was fairly recent, if I may put my fingers on it. If indeed I did bring it, there it is. Nirguna and Saguna Brahman. Remember, gunas are modes of nature, like, if you want to put it scientifically, inertia, activity, and balance. That's how maybe the scientists could understand. But the gunas also have appearances not just in physical matter, but they have appearances in your mind and also in your actions. So the gunas open up 2 different levels of modes of nature that we're not aware of in our scientific West. We can't just leave it in cause and effect, that is karma, in the realm of 2 balls knocking together and, or objects coming together in space, or 2 mosquitoes colliding in the dense gases, and what happens? Or what if a bull hits me, how far will my body fly? You see, this is all mathematic calculation about how objects come together. We can't leave cause and effect just in that realm. We have to take it into the realm of our actions and into the realm of our mind. And that's basically what the gunas help you do. The gunas appearing in your mind are different than the gunas appearing in nature. That is, inertia in nature turns into slothfulness in the mind, doesn't it? Laziness. And activity or dynamism in science would turn into restlessness in the mind, and balance in science would turn into this what's called sattva, equanimity in the mind. So the mind is going through has these 3 gunas in them too, just like matter does, and your acts then also are sometimes lazy, that is unconscious, dense, slow, sometimes restless, and sometimes balanced. According to Krishna in the Gita, which we'll look at week after next, on the Sunday we come back, we can look at the karma charts. You do not want to do any acts in rajas and tamas. That is slothfulness and restlessness. Any act done in slothfulness or restlessness will create a karma. But acts done in sattva will not create a negative karma. It will create a positive karma possibly, and you'll have to deal with that later because you want to get on top of that also. You can live in positivity all the time, but you haven't reached transcendence yet. So the problem with balance, or sattva, is that it keeps you a happy little animal, see, or a happy little child, you see. But the danger of being a happy little child is that there are visitations, you see, from unhappy circumstances and from disturbed circumstances that come upon you. You can be perfectly happy and then all of a sudden you hear somebody starving. Where does your sattva go? You see, gee, I can't really be happy anymore because that person's starving, or that country's starving. So sattva is not a good place to stop at. It's a good place to rest in, to attain, but you must go beyond. So these three gunas of nature, this is going to be, we already pretty much covered them in terms of avarana, covering, vikshepa, distortion, and prakasha, revelatory power. That's basically what you're talking about, tamas, rajas, and sattva. So there's not going to be a lot of teaching on the three gunas in this series of classes, except for those mere mentions which I've just given you. Now, but what I do want to give you is a little bit more on nirguna, saguna. So let's look at this chart. And I guess I'm going to have to shout out the teachings again as the Hawaiian rain comes down. Now here's a good opportunity for you to see an image of Holy Mother, who I was just singing about and speaking about in the first half. This is Sri Ramakrishna's divine consort, and also whom he called manifestation of Kali, Saraswati, and Lakshmi in this particular incarnation. So she manifests three great goddesses inside of her. Not just an extant consort, as Lexington said in that quote we just saw, but actually in her own right a realized soul and the mother of all living beings. That's why they call her the Holy Mother. That's the name that the devotees have given her. Now, this first quote would be good to take first. Do you know what God with form is like? And this is Sri Ramakrishna speaking. Do you know what God with form is like? Like bubbles rising on an expanse of water. Various divine forms are seen to rise out of the great akasha of consciousness. The incarnation of God is one of these forms. The primal Shakti sports through the incarnation. So that divine mother power is what you're seeing, the wriggling motion of the snake, as it were, when you see a great soul and all that light that's collected there. You're seeing that Shakti operating inside of a great soul like that. And there's that word again, akasha. Remember we had it back here, the great akasha of consciousness is exactly that, isn't it? Supreme space of pure being, the Paramakasha is called there. So you're talking about Divine Mother reality, an all-pervasive space of pure conscious awareness. Now this chart is set up to show you the nirguna aspect of Brahman and where saguna Brahman kicks in. So there's a sort of line of demarcation, you might say, that that is very hard to determine for the soul, but the seers have given us a possibility of seeing it or perceiving it by giving us these divisions of nirguna, saguna, nirvikalpa, savikalpa, and so forth. That is, God with form and God without form. So this is what these two pillars signify. Nirguna is God beyond the gunas, that is divine reality without form, and saguna brings in the property of attributes. For instance, a Christmas tree has ornaments, and it's green, and so forth. The ornaments are the qualities that it has, you see. But the green of the tree is its actual essence. So with a metaphor like that, you can understand the difference between non-duality and duality, or nirguna and saguna. Saguna has attributes, ornaments everywhere. The trees, oceans, lakes, rivers, people. These are the ornaments of the saguna Brahman is manifesting itself. Whenever you see form, you know you're in the realm of saguna Brahman. But where that form begins to disappear, you know you're entering in through the doorway, piercing the curtain of nescience, which is like her veil flowing off, and entering into the realm of pure intelligence. Chit Shakti, right? You just said in the Father of Yoga's name for her. Chit Shakti, pure intelligence. And there's where the gunas are in abeyance. Here the gunas are operative. So this is why nirguna and saguna, the attributes begin to show themselves. Remember, that's why Shakta Advaita Vada is such a beautiful, comprehensive path, because its first intent was what? To manifest your divinity, right? And its second was get off the wheel of birth and death. See? So that back to that first tenet, manifest your divinity. So that's how you're going to be doing it. This is divinity being manifested. You can't have manifested divinity in Nirguna Brahman. There's no manifestation. People don't understand this about the difference between the Almighty Father and Christ. The difference between any form and formless reality. You must absolutely, and in fact there's no way you can't, leave Brahman alone. It is alone. Kevala asti is the word for it. I am alone. I am solo. I am singular. And that's why the monks become sannyasins. They themselves will become the reality. There will be no other two. They're going to epitomize oneness in their whole life, even inside the body. And the body will be just one of these attributes that Saguna Brahman plays with, you see, that appears naturally. So they're that detached from all form. And all they're interested in is formless reality. That they even have to come to form is a botheration. They say Swami Vivekananda spent, well, Holy Mother had a saying once about him, Naren, which is Vivekananda's pre-monastic name, Narendra, he's like a statue that sits in meditation for 700 years at a time. So we're to think that beyond the body, when he drops the body, he'll be one of those 7 great sages and seers of the 7 upper worlds, which just sits there for that length of time in meditation, as if we might say one day, I think I'm going to do a 7-hour meditation retreat. I'll meditate 7 hours today, with a break in between. 3.5 hours, stand up a minute, sit back down another 3 hours. So, but on the level of where time is lost track of, then 700 years, you see, is where a soul like that might meditate. So the point here being that that being is gone into a nirguna state, has gone back to enjoy, as it were, the bliss of non-separation. The bliss of non-separation. That's called Ananda, and it has no other competitor to its throne. It has no second. Brahmadvitiya. It's one without a second. It's beyond brain and mind and activities. It proves itself that way because it stays that way all the time. So, back to my main point, you cannot change Brahman. It does not transform. Now, let's take the great adage of Vedanta, all is Brahman. So, if Brahman cannot transform, and I must leave it pure and sacrosanct, I cannot touch it, non-touch yoga, and I cannot change it in any way because it's a parinama, beyond transformation, then what about all this that comes spilling out of it due to the Shakti's behest? If I leave Shakti out of the picture, it's Maya. But if I understand that Shiva has, the non-dual Shiva has its Shakti to take care of everything, then I'll know that there's a overseer to all this that's happening. Ishvara sometimes they would call, or Ishvari they would call her, you see. That's where you get this idea of the Trinity, see, is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? So you have the Trinity is really Ishvara. All the avatars come out of these beings, particularly out of Vishnu. So here's some sort of overall general teaching about Nirguna, what's beyond form, and Saguna, what is inside of form. Hard to know where to start, but since Vivekananda says always start with a non-dual truth and give everyone that first, we should maybe discuss some of this upper periphery of this chart. There you see gunas have been transcended. So for a soul who's Trigunatita, or as one of Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciples, Trigunatitananda. He is the bliss of being beyond the three gunas, so beyond slothfulness, beyond restlessness, and beyond balance even, has reached a state where he's just at one with non-dual reality. Remember how I said meditate on a sun, meditate on the vastness, the boundlessness of everything, infilled with bliss, peace, love, and light. That kind of soul is always enjoying that kind, like we talked about at the break, that kind of absolute imperviousness is a good word in English, imperviousness to any deviations, changes, trials, challenges, tribulations, sufferings, miseries, dualities, or attributes. Now, there you see Turyatita. Now, this associates with other states. Here's Turya, here's deep sleep, here's a visionary state, here's dreaming state, and here's waking state. So, if we were to move up now, I guess we're not going to just move from up to down. We're going to move up, then we're going to go down, then we're going to move up again. See? It's actually a good way of doing it. So here at the waking state, what's there? Speaking, acting, moving, procreating, and excreting, the five active senses. Hearing, feeling, seeing, tasting, and smelling, the five knowledge senses. Those two lists. That's on the more sentient side. On this side, you have ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Along with them, you have the subtle elements: audibility, tangibility, visibility, flavor, and odor. That's 20 cosmic principles right there. 4 sets of 5. It's called Pancha Karna. That's called fivefold transformation. See? That's where all transformation is going on, or apparent transformation is in these principles. All operated by mind, don't forget, you see. Collective mind, individual mind, and cosmic mind. All of this can be said to be within the waking, dreaming state periphery of consciousness. It goes from waking to dreaming. And it doesn't get to the visionary state yet, but only occasionally when it transcends waking and dreaming and gets into deep sleep consciously, then it can get to a visionary state. But back to these 20, can you see the connections? Earth goes with odor, goes with excretion, and goes with smelling. If you stack the 5 on top of each other, then you'd right up the board see the connections. Water goes with flavor, goes with procreation, goes with tasting. Fire goes with visibility, goes with moving, goes with seeing. Air goes with tangibility, goes with acting, goes with feeling. Ether goes with audibility, goes with speaking, goes with hearing. So all these 20 connect, you see, with one another in sets of 5s. Not only 5s independent of one another in a list, but 5s connected into each other. You see what I mean? There are other charts I've made which show this in a different way, but this is a good way of seeing the connections between everything. The connecting power. That's Shakti's business. She knows it's all connected. She knows how it expressed itself into form, saguna. That there is a order to that. There's an order of evolutes outward, and there's a reverse order of evolutes inward. Who said that? Lord Kapila of the Samkhya system. There's an order of evolutes outward, and there's a reverse order of evolutes inward. And the outward and the inward of the thing, what we would be tempted to call evolution and involution, in all of that there is no change. It's apparent transformation. Know this and you're free right away. What to speak of higher freedom and experiences you're going to have. I mean, basically you will have those experiences now. You don't have to think about them, because you've settled your waking and dreaming state. See, the A and U of Om has been known. You're a knower of the word now. So that's the importance of Saguna Brahman. You could say, oh, I'll just stay in Nirguna Brahman all the time. Once Vivekananda said to Sri Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna told him, a young Narayan in his teenage years, what do you want? He said, I want to go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi all the time and never come out. Only come out once in a while to take a little food to maintain my body, then go back into Nirvikalpa Samadhi again. And Sri Ramakrishna said to him, oh, I thought you were a much greater soul than that. That's a mean desire. So he was already training him to see all as Brahman. Brahman doesn't exist, Holy Mother said, only when eyes are closed, and cease to exist when you open them. That was one of her beautiful sayings. Sri Sharda Devi, Holy Mother. Does Brahman only exist when your eyes are closed in meditation and cease to exist when you open them and move about the world? That's a mean realization. That's a half-mature renunciation. See, that's not a full-fledged, comprehensive insight or realization you're talking about there. Brahman is through everything, throughout, all-pervasive. If we call him all-pervasive, he can't begin here and stop there, and then, begin to drop out here and begin here again. You see, up and down, in and out, higher and lower, don't make no sense. You see, to a knower of Brahman, to one who's Triguna Titananda, who has transcended the idea of form and formlessness. That's why everyone is all agog about, the Diamond Sutra. Form is formlessness and formlessness is form. Form is formlessness and formlessness is form. See? It's talking about a song in India that says, Divine Mother Durga, she takes the two black rocks of form and formlessness and smashes them together into smithereens. It's a nice word, smithereens. And what's left over is reality. Because the concepts of form and formlessness are always accosting the mind, stultifying the mind. Is God with form or is it formless? She pretty soon gets tired of all that philosophizing and just comes and says, give me those rocks. And she takes them from the philosophers and the seers and so forth and smashes them together. See, God is beyond form and formlessness. You're missing the point. So if it's beyond form and formlessness, it's also shooting through and through form and formlessness, like sugar, like sweetness in sugarcane juice. That's how Sri Ramakrishna described it. Brahman is like the sweetness in sugarcane juice. It's everywhere. It's in everything. Sure, it may be measured by the vehicle it gets into. Light shines poorly off a rock, better off a leaf, really well off a lake, but best of all off a mirror. See? So it's the same light, but it's shining to different degrees of intensity. And that's how my teacher used to teach it, so that we could grok it. You see, all of a sudden we could understand. Oh, I see. It's the same Atman in everyone, in everything, but it manifests itself in different degrees. Right? First directive, manifest the soul's inherent perfection. Now there's a chant, a sloka I should say, about that Sri Ramakrishna said, the Jnani, the wisdom knower, through his discrimination, that's viveka, realizes that the ego and the universe are both illusory, and perceives Brahman in his own consciousness. So that is the Advaita Vedanta. The Jnani is on the trail of Advaita Vedanta, just like the hound of heaven is on your trail. It's looking for you. Your own soul is looking for you, but you're blotting it out and finding clever ways to escape it. Those clever ways are called insight, realization. Some of them are sobering, and they come at you and say, oh, I don't want to see that. Go away. See? Have some powerful dream. It was a figment of my imagination. My psychologist told me so. My friends told me so. Or come up to a professor, oh, I went in, what happens to me in deep sleep? Don't think about that. What are you talking about? So you're not to question the absence of consciousness? The absence of consciousness proves its presence, and vice versa. That's how we know that the void is limited, that there is no void at the end of death, except for those who want to go to the void, because someone came back from the void and told us about it. Can nature come out of a void and tell you anything? If anything, it's telling you, guess what? Nature abhors a vacuum, isn't it? So in its very insentient voice, it's telling you, I am here. I am manifested in 20 different ways in your waking state. Notice me, notice me. I'm dancing before your eyes. So, yes, the dance can become rather enchanting. You see, people can get embroiled in the 20 cosmic principles, in those 20. See, they can go from waking to dreaming, dreaming to waking, back and forth forever, and never know it, that they have a deep sleep state. What to speak of a visionary state, what to speak of a state beyond all states, what to speak of a state beyond all states. Svapna, Jagrad, Svapna, Sushupti, Turiya and Turiyatita are called. So that's what this chart is showing you on this left-hand side. I've added in the visionary state there of my own design. Basically, Gaudapada's original system is just waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and Turiya. It's the 4 states of consciousness. But to go with these other facets, people are always talking about what's beyond the beyond, so you have to leave that open. See, the 2 rocks have been smashed, and it's just smithereens now you're trying to find. See, smithereens of your own consciousness. But there is a visionary state there that happens just prior to deep sleep, because if you come out of deep sleep, that's when you have your most profound dreams. That's the visionary state. And you come out, you dream a little bit more about those dreams, and you forget them entirely in the waking state. So most people don't remember what they experienced coming out of deep sleep. That great hoary old seer or sage they met there with a beard and a robe. That they only remember slightly, you see. I had a friend once who came out of a dream and said he met a divine being there who said, 3 things will happen in your life, 3 great things. And he showed him those 3 great things. But when he woke up, he had forgotten all 3. A few years later, he called me, remember that dream I told you about, Babaji? That first thing just happened to me. I said, did you remember the other 2? No. So I began to formulate the idea that Mother has veils, you see. I began to understand the teachings of Maya. You see how Maya puts her hand over, the Tantra says, puts your hand, one of her hands over your eyes and leads you along with the other hand, you see. Even the avatar gets his consciousness veiled. You might have noticed if you've read the Ramayana or any of the teachings about the young avatars, Ram, Buddha, Krishna, how they had a hell of a time. That they didn't even know their own divine nature, as great as they were, because Mother was in charge. And she wanted to lift a veil from their eyes in the midst of thousands of people rather than just in the midst of a family of 3 or 4. These beings were to make a great impression on others. So she veiled their vision until just the time they were supposed to, when the stage was set, you see. When everyone is looking. So those kinds of avatars are world teachers, Jagat Guru, we call them. Jagadguru. So something about the visionary state, very important to the juxtaposition between your deep sleep state called Sushupti and your dreaming state called Svapna. What else in this chart can we look at? This line here, subtler line, is the line between formless reality and formless dynamism. So here's where Holy Mother, Divine Mother, would sort of kick in, as it were. She would go formless herself here into Brahman. She would become one with Shiva and enjoy her divine formless essence. But then when everything is beginning to vibrate, she's there at the very hub of the process. See? That's why they sing these beautiful songs about her. Kali, Kali Borashana, Kali, Kali Borashana, Para Para Jan, Ramamrita Pan, Jadi Hate Tran, Take Shana, Kali, Kali Borashana, Kali, Kali Borashana. O blissful self, caught in mundane diversions and vain pursuits, utter the sweet yet powerful name of Kali, 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 the divine mother of this infinite universe. Grasp the non-dual knowledge of her wisdom feet with the strength of your subtle insight. Then meditate deeply on her all-encompassing, all-pervasive presence. How are those for lyrics for your song? All at that auspicious time when the desire for liberation rises within you, imbibe the nectar of Kali's timeless awareness and taste immortality. Kali, Kali Borashana. So, Ram Prasad, one of the great poet saints of India, whose teachings in 1700 AD Sri Ramakrishna took out of the streets of Bengal and from the folklore and so forth, and made them so prominent in the gospel of Ramakrishna. So many of Ramaprasad's songs find their way into the gospel, along with Kamalakanta, Prem Das, Kabir, and other great singers of divine reality. See, India is replete with them. I went to India one of the early times and was walking along the street, some beggar, as it were, playing a harmonium, singing a song. I knew the song. And I stopped in my tracks and started singing it, looked at him, and he looked up in amazement, lost his place. To see a Westerner actually knew one of these songs of Ram Prasad. And it was like, the meeting of two dearly departed souls who were coming together again after many lifetimes. We sat there and talked in the streets while people flowed by, you see, about Ram Prasad and the beauty of Ramakrishna and so forth. So, is there inner lokas where the devotees exist? Or are you going to tell me there are none? Is there intelligence? Are you going to tell me there's not? Is there great devotion for God, both with form and beyond form? Can you deny it when hundreds and thousands of people are involved in it all the time? Do things like that happen only serendipitously, or are they divinely oriented, divinely decreed? And all you need to do is place yourself in that divine atmosphere. All you need to do that much. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, oh, I gathered the wood, I struck the fire, I put the food on to cook. Do I have to spoon feed you now? Won't you do just a little? So put yourself in that trajectory, in that vibration. That's all you need to do, is just transcend tamas, rajas, and sattva, get above the gunas, and put yourself in the divine atmosphere. Everything else will be taken care of for you. Transcend the three gunas, trigunatita. one way of putting it. I want to save the curtain of nations for a couple weeks from now. Next week will be no live streaming because of our mantra retreat, but I will save a chart called the Curtain of Nations because it's a very precious teaching. The cloud of unknowing, sometimes it's called by Buddhists. It's one of those veils we just mentioned, that even the avatar has some sort of certain veil over it. Well, many people who are nowhere near as powerful and insightful as avatars or divine beings have a very thick curtain of nations going on that impedes and flows into their waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state, so that they never penetrate through the meaning of these three things. They don't even ask why I wake and why I dream, or what's the meaning of that. And in fact, when you find a person starting to talk about the significance of his dream, that's when he's beginning to have the first sort of nocturnal stirrings, you see, away from ignorance and toward higher knowledge. There's 7 stages of it. 7 stages of lower knowledge, Vashishta calls them. The 7 agyana bhumikas. Agyana means ignorance. You're coming up out of ignorance in stages. And seeing it all as a dream is one of the higher steps. Remember the chart? First starts as Jagrat, and then Jagrat Swapna, and then Swapna Jagrat, and then Sushupti Swapna. All the names of the states actually have to do with your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And each one of the little teachings that associate with it are actually a graph to show that the seers have seen beings beginning to pull themselves out of sleepiness, beginning to wake up to higher things. Not so high yet, see, but gaining ground each lifetime if needs be. Krama Mukti style, by stages of astas. So this happens when a person begins to even notice that there's a waking and dreaming state. Most people, it's just a dream. But what about their deep sleep state? When a person questions, what happened to me? Where did I go? What is this formlessness? And why do I feel so good after a couple hours of deep sleep when I can dream for 8 hours and feel horrible, like a nervous wreck the whole day? Because I never got any repose, you see. Never got any rest. I was always slothful and restless, then restful back to slothful. Tamo and Rajaguna were going back and forth with me all the time, and I never got any sattva. What to speak of peace, I never got any contentment. What to speak of contentment, I never got any happiness. I can't even count that as my own, you see. A little happiness. So, questioning about the deep sleep is atma-vichara. It's brooking on the knowledge that you will gain about Turiya. Turiya just simply means, in Sanskrit, the fourth. They didn't want to give divine reality a name, like Brahman or Allah or Almighty Father or Chit Shakti. See, they just said, it's just that simple. You have a waking, a dreaming, a deep sleep state, and then what's beyond them. Now you find out where that leads you. That was non-touch yoga. That was hands-off. That was non-denominational. That was trans-religion. That was the open space beyond philosophy. Those beings were Advaitas. They knew their stuff. They knew people were tired of ritualism. They knew people were tired of God with form, taught by conventional religion. They knew people were tired of being called a sinner. They knew people were tired of hearing about eternal damnation and the fears and doubts that it raised in them that were all unnecessary. And they just said, study the levels of your consciousness. So we talked about all that in Non-Touch Yoga, a series that is now just being posted on YouTube. You can look back on it. So much in this chart, we could go on and on forever, and we have about 10 minutes left. What to take? So I will save Curtain of Nescience. And of course, pure intelligence is pretty much self-explanatory, except that we want to connect it to her, Chit Shakti. That's what it really means. Pure intelligence, or Chit Shuddhi. Remember the reference? Tantra, Vedanta, both very much into Chit Shuddhi. purification of of objects, purification of location and atmosphere, and purification of mind. Those are the three shuddhis, or purifications, that the Tantrika, and I would say probably the Vedantists and Yogi too, all engage in. First they want to go to the altar, and if they have a container for water, they're going to polish that container with brass polish. Then they're going to put water mixed with ganges in it, you see. And then they're going to say a mantra over it and put it there. And now it's Bhuta Shuddhi, see. Now I've taken the article and I've made it pure, I can offer it to the Lord now. So it's a practice to begin seeing God in everything. The water is in the sheath is the essence, right? The kosha. The kosha is the container. The simple teaching is that all of this is a container for consciousness. So if you just take one little container of water and look at it in the right way, you're seeing the mystery of self-realization right there in an object. That's Tantra's great revelation for you, you see. That's why they have you, in comedian style, they've made it a matter of joke, oh, we're going to sit and meditate on a flower, see, as if it's a joke, you see. Or we're going to chant Om as if it's a joke. But you're slimming everything down to just one thing, and that one thing holds Shakta in it. Shakti holds dynamic power, living intelligence, Chit Shakti, you see. It holds pure intelligence in it. In fact, that's its secret. Everything is made of intelligence. But if you didn't know Divine Mother, everything is just made of matter. And matter is created, it changes, it contracts disease, it decays, and it gets destroyed. It also changes. That's 6 transformations. It grows and shrinks. None of that's Brahman. So if you put that realization, which is Vedantic, together with the deification, isn't that 2 black rocks we were talking about at the break? Tantra and Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta in particular, isn't that 2 black rocks? 2 different methods that are both powerful. What if you were to merge them? Integral yoga. See? What would happen in you? If there is any transformation going on, where is it going on? Vivekananda says, here, right? The real transformation, if there is anything, such thing, which he's not going to really admit, is in the mind. I was mentioning at the break that beautiful song, see. Oh, devotee of the Mother, meditate deeply, like, oh, blissful self caught in mundane diversions and vain pursuits, meditate on Divine Mother Kali with all the force of your being. Try hard, hard to know her. You will never succeed. But the act of trying hard will purify your mind. See? Chit Shuddhi. The Atman doesn't need purification. Your mind does. So you're already perfect, yes, but if you say, I am perfect with an impure mind, you'll never realize it. It's just lip service. So go through the purifications. Purify the articles that you're working with, your car, your courtroom, your laboratory. Purify them. And then purify the objects in them, and purify the location. And then trace it all to pure mind. You see, purify the mind. You'll find out if I can't keep purity in my location and in the objects, then the problem is in my mind. If my mind were pure, laboratory and beakers and instruments and electron microscopes would already be pure. See? I wouldn't have to worry about them changing on me all the time. So you're going to have that superlative, non-dual vision that Advaita Vedanta wants you to have. And you're going to have the tantric method which keeps you in that state. Shakta Advaita Vada. Get my drift? Synthesis, integration, amelioration. For the good of all beings, bringing it all together, connections, like between these 20 principles, connect them. Then you can go on. And we will do that week after next. We will go on. We'll start with this chart, finish it out, look at the curtain of nescience, and then I will take you finally to meet Shakti's consort, Lord Shiva, in a new chart that has to do with transmuting the poison of relativity into the nectar of immortality. There's less to say about Shiva. He's so non-dual, but there are some beautiful things there, including that poison that he has to quaff. Hala hala. We'll look into all of those things Sunday after next, as next week is our mantra retreat here at the SRV ashram. So here let's close with a chant and retire into Brahman, from Brahman. Om Sato Ma Satgamoya Tamaso Ma Joitir Gamoya Mrichor Ma Amritam Gamoya Abira Mayeti Rudrayate Dakshina Mukam Tenamam Pahinicham Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, and from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother of the universe, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.